Hey fly tyers, welcome back. My name is Matt, and thank you for stopping by the channel. And if this is your first time here and you want to learn some cool fly tying tips and tricks, maybe some new patterns and some old patterns and their history, then subscribe. Click the bell so you don't miss anything. Now I've got a very interesting pattern for you today. This one's called the Waterhen Bloa. So first off, let's talk about the name. Waterhen is a bird, and Bloa is a color. Similar to the Scottish word blay, you might have heard of the blay and black. Not a soft hackle wet fly, but a pretty popular wet fly. So Bloa is just a color, and it's really a bluish gray, medium to dark dun. So how did the Waterhen Bloa really come to be? Well, it really starts back in the early 1800s. A farmer named John Swarbrick from Wharfdale, which is in Yorkshire, England, up in the North Country, he came up with a list of flies that worked in the area. So I guess the list hung around, and maybe 50 years later, a guy named W.C. Stewart published a book called The Practical Angler in 1857, and he mentioned some of these patterns that we are now calling North Country spiders. He actually had one called Stewart's Black Spider. But the flies really got popular a few years later when Thomas Evan Pritt published his North Country flies. Now, I have a copy of this 1885 book by Pritt, and I don't necessarily recommend it. It's fairly archaic. It's not that practical of a book for a modern fly tyer, but it is kind of interesting if you're a purist and you really want to see some old school recipes. But Pritt has about 60 flies in this book, and some of them are the ones you might recognize today. Partridge in orange, a partridge in yellow, purple snipe, and then this one, the Waterhen Bloa. So what exactly defines what we now call North Country spiders? Well, it's really just a thin body, either just silk or thread or maybe some very fine dubbing, and then a long soft hackle tied pretty sparse at the front. The soft hackle you use can be any kind of soft hackle. I've got grouse here. I've tied some with this, just these very small feathers right up under the wings. You can use some partridge, a partridge skin, or some of the smaller feathers right up under the wings here. But tonight, this one, Waterhen. Now, if you're a tyer here in the States, there's a good chance you don't have any Waterhen. If not, use starling. Starling works great. It gives you that great bloa, that medium dun, dark color. Some of these feathers right up under the wing are great. I love tying with starling. I've certainly got my money's worth out of this small skin right here. So that's really it. It's a pretty cool pattern. All these North Country spiders are, so I hope you'll give it a shot. Yeah, let's get started. There you go, in the vise, the Waterhen Bloa. I'm tying this on a size 14. It is a 1X long, 1X strong wet fly hook. And I'm using yellow 70 denier UTC. I will put a base down to the start of the bend, or maybe just in front of the start of the bend there, because it's a fairly short body. So next thing we'll want to do, put some wax on the thread. Now take your muskrat. If you don't have muskrat, the original calls for the gray muskrat right here, which I'm using. If you don't, just use your gray, any kind of gray dubbing. We're going to put it on really thin. So I've got the under fur from that muskrat here, and not going to put much at all. Really just coloring the thread with this, a very thin noodle, maybe 2 inches, maybe a little bit more, just enough of a noodle to get you up there to the front of the fly. And I'll show you about where we're going to stop. Okay, don't be afraid to take it almost all the way up to the eye. Got a little bit of scruff right there. You can go ahead and pluck that out, snip it, or ignore it. So any of the rest, I'm going to ignore. So we really only have one more component. Now, I don't have a Waterhen. Not too many people do nowadays. So the alternate is starling. And normally when you're tying these in, you will always hear people say, oh, strip all the fluff off, all the webby fibers. In this case, not so much. We're going to leave the first little bit of webby fibers on there, maybe take a little bit more than that. But we're only going to put about 2, maybe 2.5 wraps of this hackle on here. Now if you look at that, this stem, it's pretty thick say right there above the eye, right, that's pretty thick. And when it starts getting thin, that's probably where you want to start tying it in. Now, the stem on this starling is pretty soft. It's not brittle, but it is soft, and it will break if you're not careful. So I'm not sure if you can tell, but these wraps are really pressing it down, squishing that stem, which is good. It's not likely to pull out on you. So just snip that off close there. Now we're going to wrap it. We literally only have about maybe just more than an inch on that feather right there. So these type hackle pliers, you can make them work, but this type, the spring-loaded ones, work just a little bit better, I think, because they really get a hold of that tip. See, I've got a nice big grasp of that tip there. So just pull these back. I will pull them back as I wrap them and hold them while I make that first wrap. And that first wrap, put a few webby fibers down, and you can be careful. It just pulled out. See that? I'm gonna have to go in here and try to grab another clump of it. Now, this is the second wrap right here. Do we have enough stem to get a third? Maybe. Let's try at least 2.5. So, okay, here's 2.5 right there. If I go up all the way, it would be 3. Yeah, we'll give it a shot. We might have a little cleanup to do. So 2 thread wraps to lock this feather in up here. Now just reach in here and try to snip your stem without taking too many of those fibers. So pretty buggy looking right there, but easy to fix. Just pull these back and we'll take some wraps from the eye, go right back to the eye, and then go about 4 thread widths back. And it doesn't have to be a big head. And there we go. It's a little bit catching in, a little caught in on my hook right there, but that's fine. Let's put our whip finish tool to the fly and see how this is going to look. Now there's not really much cleanup to do with these old North Country spiders. So that's really it. A drop of head cement and this guy's done. This thing has amazing action in the water. Even in still water, those legs are just fluttering all over the place. So like I said, a super easy tie, very effective wet fly pattern. Now I really appreciate you watching, folks, and we'll see you next time.